Good afternoon. This meeting is being conducted in person at the E.G. Jerry Gladback Water Treatment Plant. As a convenience to the public, members of the public may also participate virtually by logging in the agency Zoom meeting. Any member of the public may listen to the meeting or make comments to the board using the call-in number or Zoom webinar link. In the event there's a disruption of service which prevents the agency from broadcasting the meeting to members of the public using either the call-in option or internet-based service, this meeting will not be postponed or rescheduled, but will continue without remote participation. The remote participation option is being provided as a convenience to the public and is not required. Members of the public are welcome to attend the meeting in person. I do not see any members of the public present in the room. I will now pass to Vice President Martin to begin the meeting, or Vice President Marks to begin the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, are we being recorded?
We are.
Okay. I'll order this March 23rd special board meeting of the SCV Groundwater Sustainability Board. Please rise and join me in the sight of the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The procedures for today's meeting are as follows. I will introduce each agenda item. Staff will present. I'll ask the public for comment. We'll then ask discussion and questions for members. Once concluded, I will ask for a motion and a second, and any further discussion. The board secretary will call for a roll call. Members are present today, except for President Cooper and Councilmember Gibbs. Item 1.3 is public comment. Members of the public comment on actual items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the agency that are not on the agenda at this time. We ask members of the public wishing to comment on item listed on this agenda to do so at the time each item is considered. Are there any public comments?
There is not.
If item 4.1 is the agenda. Are there any changes, additions, modifications to the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Moving on to item 2.1, approval of the consent calendar. Is there a motion?
Director Natoli, so moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Hey,
And there are no public comments.
no comment. Okay, great.
As I call your name, please state how you vote. Director Peterson,
Yes.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Director Hernandez,
Abstain.
President Good or Director Goodside,
Yes.
and Vice President Marks.
Abstain. As I wasn't at the meeting.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Consent calendar is approved.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 3.1. Consideration to adopt the Ohio River Valley East Groundwater Sub-Basin Groundwater Sustainability Plan. 2025 annual report. Visitors.
Thank you, Vice President Marks. So we have a short presentation today on the annual report. It looks like April's opening it up right now. And before we go through some of the slides, the bottom line is we're still finding the basins being managed sustainably. We don't have undesirable results, but I'll highlight some of the differences and from last year. So with that, I'll jump into it. So this is our fifth, which is hard to believe, but that's how it works. So this is our fifth annual report. And our 2024 was submitted, of course. The Department of Water Resources made a number of findings, but that our GSP continued to be implemented in the manner consistent with achieving the sub-basin sustainability goal. So overall, the Department of Water Resources response from our last annual report was typical. Basically, keep on trucking. You're doing a good job. In terms of key findings, top left one is the key one. No undesirable results related to our 5 sustainable management criteria. We did have, again, this year, some minimum thresholds exceeded, and we've talked with your board about those in the past. These are primarily related to the GDE monitoring well thresholds, which we know need revisions, and also some isolated water quality results for inorganic constituents, also something that is a known issue, but not an undesirable result. Municipal groundwater use was at 18,734 acre feet, excuse me. Imported water use was a little bit higher. And, the report describes other ongoing activities, briefly describes the periodic evaluation. Not on this slide, but we'll get to some of the slides. All of these annual reports require a fair amount of work with analysis and running the groundwater flow model. So we've got some slides on that. We'll talk a little bit on one slide about changes in storage. Oh, and I should have mentioned, John Porcello is joining us remotely as well. So summary here, chronic lowering of groundwater levels. We've analyzed the wells. We had a few GDE wells that had water levels below the minimum thresholds, but other than that, no issues. And we know we need to adjust the GDE water levels. For chronic reduction in groundwater storage, we did have a drier year this year with lower precipitation, slightly higher pumping. So a little bit of a decrease in water and storage, but we're still at a high level. This graph shows, if we just, let's not focus on the whole graph, just the right-hand column that's kind of this tan color. That indicates that this recent water year compared to next was a year of below normal rainfall. The blue bar represents the total annual groundwater pumping. So right off the bat, you can see we're drier this year than last, and we've had a little bit more groundwater pumping this year from last. The magenta dashed line and plus is the cumulative change in groundwater storage. So we have had some reduction in groundwater storage due to these factors, but you can see we're still higher than, in terms of storage, higher than we've been for most of this period. In terms of seawater intrusion, we know that's not applicable here. For groundwater quality, we've had similar issues that we had last year. We've got some isolated exceedances in some wells. We did have a minimum threshold exceedance for total dissolved solids in management zone 3. And under the second test, we do not find that there was an exceedance of the minimum threshold. And that's because we use two tests. This is something that we're going to work to clarify and simplify for the periodic evaluation. Truthfully, it's exceedingly complex the way it's set up in the GSP. I don't think any of us realized that it would be that way when we put that in the GSP, but in practice, it's overly complex. So we're going to look to simplify that. Test one, we had locally high TDS and sulfate. Again, this is a known issue. Key issue is whether or not groundwater extraction could be causing that. We don't have any evidence of that, so we don't find an undesirable result. It's more of a local issue, local water quality issue. For land subsidence, our groundwater sustainability plan has a minimum threshold in it, no more than an average of 0.1 foot in any single year, or cumulatively half a foot in any 5-year period. We are not even getting close to those minimum thresholds. We're measuring land surfaces 3 different ways. The INSAR is the one that provides a nice overall map of the basin. The UNAVCO Sky B is a single station in the northern northeastern part of the basin. And then we're also continuing with the semi-annual land elevations at 12 benchmarks. This map is based on the INSAR data. So this is data that is collected by the state. And what you'll see, the blue colors, and you can read it in your legend, but the blue colors are uplift, and the warmer colors are subsidence. And you'll see here the San Gabriel Fault, the Halser Fault. This is a tectonically active basin. We see uplift in much of the basin on the south side of the fault. We do see some subsidence on the western part of the basin. You see a dark area surrounded by warmer colors. Some of you may recognize that that's the Chiquita Canyon landfill. So there's a lot of earth movement that's taking place in the landfill. North of this area, the northeastern, you'll see a green dot that says Sky B. That's the single GPS monitoring station in the basin. And then we also have the 12 benchmarks shown on here. That we have a licensed land survey twice a year. There's really no clear trend on those 12 yet. We'll continue to monitor those. We're seeing a little bit of an indication of increases in land surface elevation when the aquifer is full, slight decreases when it's not as full. But we need to keep monitoring. And when I talk about increases and decreases, we're talking on the order of hundredths of feet, 0.01, 0.05, 0.06, maybe plus or minus. So these are very small differences, which could be attributed to a number of things. So we need to keep monitoring that. Oh, I think I just talked through everything on this slide. So no data exceeded the 0.1 foot in water year 2025. And that's the bottom line here. For depletion of interconnected surface waters, we continue to monitor the GDE wells, but their numbers are shrinking. We did have exceedances of the GDE trigger at B, C, and D, again, known issues. We talked last time with your board that GDE D and E downstream from Interstate 5 have been washed away. GDE A is also distressed and will likely need to be destroyed. But the bottom line is that we don't have undesirable results for depletion of interconnected surface water, although we do need to bolster that monitoring network with replacement wells. This is a graph we've shared with your board before, and this is for GDEB. And the solid red line and the yellowish line above, those are where the current GSP identifies the trigger and the minimum thresholds. But those are not correct. And based on work that we did a couple years ago, there are tentative revised triggers and minimum thresholds, which you can see as dashed lines in the lower part of this graph. So we know those need to go lower. Exactly where they end up in terms of elevation will be determined through the periodic evaluation process. And we try and, well, we don't try. We mention this at the public workshops as well, that these numbers are going to go lower in a number of cases. So the monitoring networks are okay. If it were not for 3 of the GDE piezometers, we'd say they were doing great. Basin's been operated sustainably. We've had some of these exceedances of minimum thresholds, same as last year, but they don't reflect undesirable results. We're continuing other things too, outreach to private well owners, both for the de minimis water quality monitoring and the non-de minimis work. That work has substantially been completed, the outreach has. And we're currently in the phase of conducting public workshops as well for the periodic evaluation. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions your board may have.
Thank you, Rick. April, are there any comments?
There are not.
A board member questions or comments?
Thank you, Vice President Marks. I'm not an engineer, let alone a hydrology engineer, but when it comes to the water quality testing, you're saying it's overly complicated. Is there a way to easily explain what makes it complicated and how we might change that process for testing?
Two things come to mind. One is the area where we're finding these increases in salts is a local area with a history of high salt content in the groundwater. So it's an area that is, we believe, a naturally occurring local area with higher minerals in the groundwater. But despite that, we treat it like it's not. We treat it as if it's reflective of the rest of the background conditions in the basin. Because we don't treat it in a special way, it throws a flag that there's been an exceedance there. So that's a key issue. Then the other issue is we have a slightly different list of wells that we're tracking for inorganic water quality. The list of wells that we track for the salt and nutrient management plan may vary year to year, and that creates another complication for us. So those are some of the key things that we think we can simplify.
Thank you, Mr. Vergoots. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
I just wanted to comment to that question. So just further, Rick, to comment to that, I think if I may, one of the things that can be done right is just as those different conditions are established, maybe by the local agency, right? In terms of what's naturally potentially occurring in the groundwater, you just come back to us, right, with that data. And then we would give a consideration of what could be locally occurring and then try to differentiate that from maybe other impacts associated with something happening in the groundwater. So I think maybe just sharing, hey, there's other studies going out there. We found out that, this is naturally occurring versus, and we're at this number versus what's happening. I think at least in presentation to this board could be useful, because I agree with you. It's pretty complicated, especially when the data points keep shifting. So I think just if there is other studies done by the local agency regarding what's happening, naturally, maybe just bringing that back for us to be like, here's the knowledge. This is what is happening in the aquifer from just a natural geological, occurrence, what's in the soil matrix. And then this is what the delta is. And that could be considered maybe something else being put on the soil versus what's already naturally occurring. Because I do think getting a little bit too much into that might be just difficult. We just want to understand, right, what kind of implications are we having for maybe recycled water or something else, right, in terms of salt nutrients. And then the other ones, I think I saw the presentations that you gave to the public. They were discussions on, VOCs and other organics that may be coming from potential plume, for example, or something like that. And I think that's really for our board, what we would need to keep an eye on, right? Is anything moving, or is there a new introduction of something? Because if it's already something existing, we're going to mitigate at some point, or we just want to know what's happening with it. We don't want to be further contributing, right, to water quality concerns. And that's the delta, again, what we're really looking at that may be causing greater concerns.
Yeah, good
So
point.
I think if we focus on the delta, it might be a little bit easier for us to understand without getting too much into the water chemistry of it.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think keying in on whether or not groundwater pumping is a cause of these is particularly important. And we're not finding that it is.
Yeah.
So we can make that more clear. And on the salt and nutrient management plan efforts, we do annual reporting to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, which is the state agency that requires this work to carry forward. And we do keep repeating that the salt issue is anomalous, but that's a slow-moving ship, the regional board. But we're making sure to make it clear to them every chance we get. Ultimately, I'd like to see us adjust that monitoring program so we don't have these false positives, if you will.
I agree with you. I think that, again, for our board, we're focusing on, what kind of pumping or, volumetrically and where is there a potential impact, right?
Mhm.
And so that's why we're really looking at water quality. Some of the other things, I mean, if it's pre-existing, then maybe pumping, if we can see that correlation, but where we don't,
Right.
we're limited in terms of our actions. So,
Right.
okay, thank you.
Let's say.
See, when somebody asks a question, then there's all these follow-up questions that you're going to get. You said that there's different wells monitored for the GSP and the salt nutrient management plan, and that's part of the complexity. If we're just looking at it as the GSA board, why is that complex? Or don't we specify which wells are going to be sampled and then just sample those?
You asked why it's complex, and
Why does it add complexity? Like, why aren't we just picking certain wells for the GSP and sampling them and not being as concerned about the salt and nutrient management plan?
so that's a really good point, and the answer is that in the GSP development, we didn't want to create a new standard for exceedance of water quality objectives in the basin. And so at the time, using the state's salt and nutrient management plan program made sense. But that program has some glitches in it with the over reliance on these locally high salt concentrations. And then the other issue is that the groundwater quality monitoring network in the GSP is different. And I suppose in hindsight, we should have caught that and made sure that they were the same, but we didn't. And so that's an area where I think we can simplify it
When we do the GSP revision.
when we do the periodic evaluation.
Yeah.
And so one
Okay.
question would be, if we had to pick one,
Mhm.
the salt and nutrient management plan, would that be the one that we would pick? Maybe.
Yeah.
And we could just explain that, yes, the state's plan shows an exceedance, but the GSA doesn't see it as a concern. So that could be one approach.
Right. And then I know you've said a couple times, pumping is not a cause, and I agree that we always need to look at that for any effects, right? That's what the plan is about. How do we explain that to the public? Like if a member of the public said, well, you just said pumping's not a cause. How do we know that? What's the 2-sentence answer? That pumping is not causing these higher contaminant levels.
2-sentence answer.
I gave you 2, not 1.
Those areas aren't near a pumping center, and the underlying geology suggests it's related to the naturally occurring rocks.
See, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for the challenge.
Other questions? Director Martin.
Thank you, Chair Marks. Rick, thank you for your report. I appreciate certainly the results. No results that we need to be concerned about. Did you see any trends in that direction other than actual results in the last year or during the reporting period?
Just the change in pumping, storage, and weather, that was a sort of a clear trend. Otherwise, no.
Okay. So I say, water agencies in our valley even before the merger, managed the groundwater basin pretty closely. And so this isn't the first time we've ever had a groundwater management plan, not necessarily a plan like we have, but long before GSA, we had a plan. But I did have a question about subsidence. I mean, they're so small in our valley. Are these benchmarks or monitors out of the flow line? Are they out of areas that will be affected by sediment flow or river bottom scour or anything like that?
They are. They're in urbanized areas, if that answers your question. They're located around where we think the groundwater levels will be lower in the future.
So they're not in the actual flow line of the river. They're up on the bank or up on
right.
dry land.
That's right.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's fine. And I don't recall, after all these many years living here, whether there's been any observation of any sort of subsidence at all along our river and our basin.
Right.
I'm not aware of any. So I'm not surprised at the results. And I don't anticipate any going forward. And so we continue to operate the basin in a sustainable manner, which we always have.
Correct.
So I'm confident that we'll continue to get these kind of results, even once you do the clarification. So
yeah.
I, for one, support adoption of your annual report.
Thank you.
Director Peterson.
Thank you, Rick. Always exciting to read this report. What always reminds me of the discussion about sulfates is interesting because it was always been related to this geology around this area, Southern California, because I used to deal with it with a sewage treatment plant. So I understand that there are certain things that happen that we can leach that compound out of our rocks around here. But also, I was wondering about the septic tank issue. Is there any effect that you can see from the monitoring we do from the previous history of septic tanks in our area?
From the previous history.
Yeah.
So that's going back. Knowing where this area is, I believe that area has been sewered for a while. So no, frankly, we haven't looked at that from a historical pre-sewer time frame, but we could look at that. Yeah, we could go back and look at that older
I'm
data.
not really wanting to make you do more work. I just was curious if it was.
Well, it's a good question.
Yeah.
It is.
Thank you, Rick.
Would anyone like to make a motion for adoption?
So moved, Chair Marks.
Second.
I'll second.
April.
As I call your name, please state how you vote. Director Morton,
Yes.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Yes.
Director Gutzeit,
Yes.
Director Hernandez,
Yes.
Vice President Marks.
Yes.
Thank you. This item does pass.
Wait. Move on to item 3.2. Summary of the February 4th and March 25th or March 5th. The workshop about sustainability plan, periodic evaluation. And Rick, you're up again.
Thank you, Vice President Marks. I'm pinch hitting a bit for Kevin Strauss. He couldn't be here today. He had a conflict, but the staff report lays out what we've been up to. Also online, although I don't see her, I think she may not have a panelist invite, April, but I think we'll be okay, is Katie Evans from Woodard and Curran, who's been helping us with our outreach effort.
I can move her over.
Okay, thanks, April.
You're welcome.
So our second and third workshops were completed. I think it's fair to say so far so good. The feedback we've been getting from them has been good. I think we've got a reasonable level of detail without being overcomplicated and just getting to the basics, communicating with stakeholders. This is the issue. This is what we want to clarify. Here's the direction we're going, and then getting their input from it. Katie has been doing a good job with these online tools called Menti. It's an interactive tool where there can be questions asked during the workshop, and stakeholders that are logged in can click buttons. I suppose on one hand, it's sort of like a survey. There would be questions, to what extent do you agree or disagree with this? In other cases, the Menti allows stakeholders to put in answers or other information. So that's been a useful tool for us. And we've been doing a lot of outreach. In the board letter, you'll see that we've sent out roughly 15,000 emails. A little bit over half of those are being opened. The attendance at the workshops is okay. It's not large. It's a little on the small side, with 5, 6, 7 people present. Our first workshop had I think a few more members of the public present than the second and third workshops. But shoot, we're doing all the right stuff with outreach and communicating. And moving forward, we're working on developing the materials for workshop 4. That will be in May. That's going to be the workshop where we talk about actual revision of water level minimum thresholds and some of the criteria to establish the undesirable results. In your board package, there are the PowerPoints that were delivered. There may be results of the Menti, and April had placed for us as well a memo from Katie Evans. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or potentially Katie, if she can communicate back with us. And this is an information item for your board. Thank you.
There
There is not.
board member quite.
Thank you again, Chair Marks. Rick, I attended one of these sessions, maybe two, I can't recall, but do we have any private well owners that expressed concern over the GSA and what we're doing and the reports that we filed?
Give me just a second. I don't think so. But I'll check on that. But
Okay,
I don't think so. We've talked with people in the Bouquet Canyon group offline in separate meetings. They're aware that this process is moving forward. But I haven't heard from them any specifics.
because I think we always thought from the formation of the GSA that private well owners would be very interested and concerned about how it may affect their operation of their well. So we don't see that.
We don't. And we have people on that email list that were part of the well owner group in the original GSA formation.
Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.
Good side.
Yes, my question would be, you know, if Kevin Strauss were here and I'd asked him this, I know a lot of public agency outreach is, you know, we have workshops, advertise, and people don't come. I just wanted to see, and then I saw in Katie's memo about, you know, trying to reach other groups that, you know, haven't been represented. I just would wonder, is this normal, or, you know, is there something different that we should do? I do think it's normal, but I would just like to know from the public outreach professional if that is correct, to say that we should expect this, or should we be doing something different?
Mhm.
So
Hey, Rick,
just,
we have Kevin on the line that can
Oh, okay.
address
Oh,
Maria's
okay.
question.
Great.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Director Goodside, if you could restate the beginning of that. I was rejoining as a panelist when you began your comment, so I didn't hear the first portion.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I just know, you know, many public agencies struggle with workshops, and, you know, they do advertising, they do outreach and get very low turnout, and that seems to be normal from what I've seen. Is that, you know, from your standpoint as an outreach professional, is that what we should expect and not be discouraged by that? Or is there something different that we should be doing? I saw some of the memos mentioning, you know, trying to add other people to the list and still not getting a response. I'm just looking for a reassurance that, you know, we're doing what we should and the results are what they are, or are we not doing what we should?
Yes, and I'll let Katie follow up as well as with her experience working with other agencies. But I would say that there's probably three factors that are going into this, and that I would say are on the right track, doing what we should be doing. First, we are reaching out to those who we've identified as interested parties, those who have an interest in the outcome and in this process: private well owners, environmental groups, tribal councils, local governments. That's already a small pool. The 300,000 people in just the SCV water service area is not the target audience for this plan update specifically, because, well, it does affect it. There are other groups that are more affected. We're trying to reach those that are more affected. Second, I would say if we're making contact with any person, it's positive. It's somebody that we're educating, and perhaps they're not coming back because they're satisfied with the work that's being done. They're believing that the work is being handled correctly and efficiently and expertly. And so I wouldn't be discouraged by having somebody drop in for a meeting and maybe falling off because they are not concerned about it anymore. And third, I would say that we are also at a point of the year and in the calendar overall that's a great meeting fatigue between the amount of meetings and workshops just by our agency alone, between the urban water management plan, the GSP update, it's election season. There are so many other calls for time and demands on people's schedules that I wouldn't be extremely discouraged to not have turnout in the 50s, 60s, 70s for a public meeting.
And,
All
and
right,
I would
thank
like
you.
to add to that, if you don't mind. I'll just share a little bit of a different perspective. So for those who don't know me, I'm Katie Evans. I'm with Woodard and Kern. We're a nationwide consulting firm. So we do a lot of these efforts in California specifically, but I can tell you with no doubt, when we see a lot of people showing up for public meetings, it's because there's a problem or a concern. So I will say, in addition to everything Kevin said, part of the reason I think too is that those who've come to these meetings in the past, or maybe even came to the first one and saw that the basin is being sustainably managed, may have determined that it's not the best use of their time to continue to attend. So that's possible. But I will echo what Kevin said, that we are doing a lot of good things here to get the word out. I have an email in my inbox right now from Laura and Kevin's team detailing each and every outreach item that we've done in an effort to see if we want to try to strategize for additional tasks. But realistically, we've gone kind of above and beyond at this point. And I do think that the interest that we're getting is the people who are interested in this from a personal perspective, and it's enough of a participation level that I feel comfortable moving forward.
Okay, thank you for those explanations.
This question is for Katie. I interpret your comments as saying when there's no problem, there's less interest.
I think that's a fair interpretation. Yes.
Okay. We see that all the time. Thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. One quick question, Rick. Have we made any progress as far as outreach to the folks at the top of the canyons, as far as getting any groundwater quality information?
No, we mention it at our workshops. We tell people that there's a program for water quality monitoring, but no takers. We did have, and actually Director Martin, in the first workshop, we had a member of the public ask about the water quality monitoring program. I don't know if that person was a well owner or not. But Vice President Marks, no, we continue to mention it and advertise it as a program available during the workshops, but still no interest.
If we get no interest and we have no data from that source, do you see the potential for the state to order us to go out and acquire that data on our own, or what do you think the risk is there?
We've thought about this from the context of we keep striking out. So with our periodic evaluation, we can document that, and we can mention to DWR that we've got these data gaps. We would bring, as part of the periodic evaluation, we would bring back to your board any suggestions that the GSA invest in drilling some monitoring wells there in these canyon areas. So we might want to suggest, as part of the periodic evaluation, that we seek funding to install monitoring wells.
Just thinking of the hassle of doing that. Maybe, well, the expense would be substantial if you got acquire the easements and drill the wells and so forth. I'm wondering even if it would make sense if to provide some sort of financial incentive for somebody who might be otherwise willing to compensate them for their time and trouble of allowing us to go on their property.
That's a good
Maybe
suggestion.
that's an approach.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember this coming up before, and one thought I had, I mean, for the, I keep calling it the plan update, but we keep calling it a data gap. Is it data that we need? Would be another question I'd ask. I mean, assuming we know the flow in the area and have a relatively downstream well, if there's no problem, why go to, you know, a potentially marginally installed well, collect data and find a problem that isn't causing the valley a problem?
Right.
So could we make the argument that, yes, we called it a data gap. We don't have any water quality downstream of this. Here's the flow. Here's the nearest watering or monitoring wells. So we would like to stop calling it a data gap and see what they say.
Mhm.
That would be another approach.
That's another approach too.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yes. Your friend.
Thank you. So Mr. Rivers, you know, I thought I saw something in the communications where the communications team was already kind of post workshop asking these questions, right? What would be the barrier? I don't know if they've already been asked, surveyed in that way, but there's some questions, right? What would incentivize you? One was gift cards and
Right.
different things like that. Did we get any good data from that? It speaks to what Mr. Vice President Marks was just saying. I think we've already kind of pulled those that were in the workshop. Do we know what kind of feedback we got back? Maybe not you or somebody online.
I can speak to that if it's helpful.
Yeah,
Sure,
that'd be
Katie.
great, Katie.
Yeah, I would just say we asked that question in a public workshop setting. What would incentivize you, or what do you think would incentivize others to allow us to solicit data from your private well? And we asked it in a general sense because some of the things that we had talked about in that meeting were related to groundwater levels, but were also water quality. And we did hear incentivizing via payment or gift cards could be useful. One of the things that we had explained or tried to discuss during that meeting was what, you know, part of the value of allowing us to come and measure or take water quality samples from your well is that you would then get data that you may not have now or may not have access to. So that's another benefit of participating with us. But it didn't seem to generate any specific interest in anyone doing so.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, it looks like the team has at least pulled whoever we talked to so far. And then I was wondering, have we made any effort through like public health? You know, there's some interaction with them and maybe communicating with these well owners when they're going to their typical review with public health. Maybe just can give informational, offer that.
We could check into that.
Okay.
We could check into that.
And I mean, I know it's not a regulatory requirement, but if you come and there's something they already have to
Hey, you
do
want
to
to jump in on
satisfy
that?
public health. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, my Zoom froze for a second. I know that we've sent out on our distribution list our folks from our local public health office. I don't know what their role is in well monitoring check-ins. That's something that we can follow up on.
Okay, Kevin, I think you said that you'd already done something, but you weren't sure what their role is, but you'll follow up, is what I.
Yeah, I have
Okay.
communications folks over there that I'm in contact with at Public Health, but they've been switching around responsibilities in the local Santa Clarita office for the county public health office. So it'd just be a matter of finding the right person and ensuring that I'm getting them information to the right person.
Thanks. So if we are going to make an offer, perhaps we can do it in that way when they're already coming out there to service a well, not something kind of out of the blue, make them more suspicious. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. Not seeing any other comments or questions. This was an information item only, so we'll move on to item 3.3, quarterly status update of the GSP implementation. Rick.
Thank you, Vice President Marks. We have Mark Amontado from engineering here today, and he's going to present some of the slides on the monitoring well work. But I'll jump into this, and then I'll turn it over to Mark here in a moment. In terms of key updates, we've talked about the periodic evaluation workshops. We do have one slide here that talks a bit about workshop 4. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act Round 2 grant is nearing completion, very near completion. We're doing final paperwork. For the non-de minimis extraction reporting, I have a slide on that I'll get to. Similarly, these next 2 bullets with DWR guidance documents, we'll talk about those briefly, and then we'll do a 6-month look ahead. Workshop 4 is coming up. We talked about this a little bit ago on a previous item today. Workshop 4 is May 4th. I'm told that that's a catchy date. But despite that, we have work to do on that day. And we'll be rolling out the written descriptions for what constitutes undesirable results. We'll be talking about revised minimum thresholds. We'll be talking about use of the flow model and how that's helped us. And so workshop 2 will be one of the more technical workshops. We'll try and keep it as simple as we can. And but that's coming up. There's a lot of effort involved in that right now. And that will include a description of the groundwater flow model. In terms of other key dates, they're on your screen here. I'm not going to read them all, but we do include coming to your board ahead of releasing a draft periodic evaluation for comment, coming back to your board, telling you what we've learned, and then releasing a final for public comment. Target is to wrap that up in December. You know, it could shift to January, but December is a reasonable target for it. April, can you advance this? Oh, here we go. Little delay, excuse me. Okay. So the monitoring well construction is complete. Mark is going to talk about this. This is a big deal for us, hence the smiley face. This is a really big accomplishment for us. You know, nearly $4 million of work that went into this. That's not money that the member agencies would have been able to put forward to fill these data gaps in the basin. So we're thankful to the Department of Water Resources for this. And this grant was the first one that we've had with no matching requirements. So this was a very generous grant for us, and it really helps fill important data gaps. Mark and his team deserve a lot of credit for getting this done. And then we'll also talk about, we talked to, yeah, come on up, Mark. And then the other 2 items on here regarding the grant were the annual report. We've discussed that today. And then the review of the domestic well records. So we'll talk a bit about that. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mark.
All right, great. Thanks, Rick. And
Mark, would you like to?
All right. So as Rick mentioned, I'm one of the engineers at SCV Water. I was tasked to help with component 2, which was of this grant, which was the installation and construction of these monitoring wells. And I'm going to kind of go over a little bit of background on it. So the area on the left side of your screen kind of shows the area of interest of where these monitoring wells were installed. We used a consultant to identify certain areas that we wanted to target, and we reached out to, local businesses and existing properties that we own and existing easements that we have, and we identified basically 8 locations on the right side of your screen that we intended to install some monitoring wells. And that was the kind of the conclusion of the design effort. This slide kind of shows a little bit more background. So SCV Water was awarded a DWR Sustainable Groundwater Management Grant. The well siting identified 8 nested monitoring wells in the target area. And then I guess based on the available grant budget, the project was split up. As I mentioned, there was 8 nested wells. The base bid of the project was the 5 priority nested wells, and then we had 3 additional additive optional nested wells that we included. Yeah, and then this slide kind of shows the reason why we did this. So again, as Rick was mentioning, we did this project to help fill data gaps in the geology and aquifer characteristics, groundwater elevations, groundwater quality, and then also refinement of the model as well. Once we gather more information. And again, this slide shows the strategic plan nexus for SCV Water. Not going to read them all, but again, it's kind of all tying to the GSP and the work we have for this board here. This slide kind of shows the little bit of the details on the construction. As I mentioned, I was tasked to help Rick out with the construction of the wells. So Yellow Jacket Drilling is a contractor that was determined to be the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. We received 5 bids during that time. Yellow Jacket Drilling is a C-57. It's a well drilling contractor. And then we started this work and we executed a contract with Yellow Jacket in August of 2025. And then based on the bid amounts that we received, we decided to proceed with the five base bid wells plus the first additive item. So a total of 6 of the nested monitor wells were completed. And then construction activities were completed in late February, early March of this year. And we're pleased to kind of go into that, or we were under a strict timeline. So we were pleased to kind of get this accomplished in such a quick way. And then currently SCV Water is in closeout of the project. We're processing the final payment and then also requesting the final reimbursements from DWR as well. And then these next slides show a little bit of photos during the construction. Kind of first slide in September 2025, kind of identified the location. Obviously there was, as I mentioned, 6 locations. So you see the first 2 here, marking where the actual drilling will take place. And then next month, October 2025, some of the rigs appear. So fortunately, this contractor had multiple rigs available, multiple crews, and that's why we're able to accomplish this in such a timely fashion. They were able to do it concurrently and also consecutively.
Can you tell us rough street locations?
Yeah, let me go back. Yeah, so the first one on your left is the Magic Mountain well. So this one's near the Magic Mountain theme park.
Okay.
And then that next one is next to our BFDF, the baseball disinfection facility near the Hart baseball field.
Okay.
Yeah, and then these 2, this is the left one is on Magic Mountain as well. So again, they set up their drill rig and they're actively drilling in the next slide. This is another location. So this is near our V160 production well, near the golf course, the private golf course off of Magic Mountain.
No,
I don't know I
other
forget
one.
the name of it, but
what is that one in West Ridge?
This is Valencia.
Valencia. Okay.
I don't golf, so I don't.
Neither do I. Okay.
So yeah, so this particular site had 2 wells, 2 nested wells rather, 2 holes. So we did drill 2 holes here, and on the left side is the location. They're doing a little bit of surveying just because there were sound walls that they had to put up. So they're making sure that they fit there. And then on the right side shows again more of the drilling. As I mentioned, they're going to be drilling. They would be drilling 2 holes here. And then this one, November 2025 and December 2025, again, more of the drilling. Left side of your screen shows I believe the Magic Mountain well. And then on the right side shows a new location, which is what I call the E-wells monitoring well site. It's related to another project, but This is off of Henry Mayo Drive up north.
Mhm.
And then November of 2025, they start completing some of the wells. So this first one is the uh, Magic Mountain well, DW 10AB. Been doing the concrete, and then they're just capping it. And they would still have to come back for development, which they did majority of the development in February of 2026. And then the next slide right there, December 2025, shows a new location as well. That's in the College of the Canyons parking lot that they started drilling there. And then this last slide shows photos of the completed monitoring wells. All of the wells listed here, so the 6 of them include the one that I previously showed. And as I mentioned, I didn't really get any photos of them doing the development. That really happened during January and February of 2026. And this slide shows the budget considerations. So the original contract amount was $3,281,200. And then we ended up, there was some minor change orders and some minor additions related to development and other stuff during construction that we found out. So the total contract value was increased to $3,377,532.66. And then we issued a notice to proceed to the contractor. So when we started this project, September 9, 2025, and then the original completion date was for April 7th. So we actually were under schedule, or we beat it under schedule. And this was really due to the fact that the contractor did have multiple crews, multiple rigs, and then also multiple development crews as well. So we're happy that they were able to accomplish that for us. And that concludes my portion. Mark.
Yeah, appreciate that, Mark. And I should have mentioned too, in addition to Mark's work, our internal group on grants, Cheryl Fowler, Margaret Aragon, they were a big part of the glue that held this together too, communicating with DWR, getting things clear. So big team effort. All right. Moving on, the domestic well survey. We've wrapped this up. We initially started with casting a wide net looking for well records, but we found that a lot of the well records were incomplete, not very useful to locating the wells. Not wanting to give up, we focused on specific canyon areas in the basin, bite-sized chunks, if you will, and really drilled in the details with those, but found that that was lacking as well. And so we made a special data request to LA County to also determine what records it had. And it did the best it could. It was able to provide about a third. We asked for 111 wells. LA County was able to send us information on about a third of those. So we really ran this issue to ground, but ultimately we couldn't move really further ahead with just looking at the well records. And so we took a step back and say, what are we trying to understand here? We're trying to understand domestic well use, water volume use. And so Sir Fraz and Rick Vasilopoulos did work looking at land use patterns in some of these canyon areas. So we got back on track, closer to meeting our objectives for this work. And the work that they did was very useful. And you may see the total on these two columns with comparisons are similar, but that's not where the story is here. You'll see our groundwater flow model water budget terms for Bouquet, Mint, and San Francisco canyons are different than the land use the groundwater use based on land use work that we did. And so we'll use these values in the canyon areas in the updated flow model. And so we took this as far as we could, and it was a good effort. And the work that Surfraz and Rick did can be reproduced in other canyon areas to refine those areas. This was our pilot test area. So credit to Surfraz and Rick Vasilopoulos for working on this, and we appreciated the county's help and the state's help in helping with records.
Rick, can I ask a question if you go back
Mhm.
to that?
Of course.
So I'm sorry, you were saying, is this what you're assuming in the flow model? Or can you explain these two numbers and which ones would, I don't think I caught it.
Okay. Sure thing, Director. The groundwater flow model that we use for the basin makes
Mhm.
assumptions
Right.
about domestic well use in these canyon areas.
Mm-hmm.
Where those came from, I can't tell you. They're
Okay.
dated.
Yeah.
And so what this work has done is revised those to better assumptions. Yeah.
Okay. So the assumptions we're going to use moving forward are the Sigma grant effort number.
Yes.
Okay. So the historical assumptions are on the right with under flow model currently, but now we're going to change them. Or what are you thinking?
You are right. And I realize now that in our title for flow model, we should have said old flow model or
Mhm.
something to make it more clear. So apologies. Yeah. So yes, the numbers in the left, the Sigma grant effort, those are the new numbers we'll move forward with.
Okay. I mean, overall, pretty close though, in terms of your total
Yeah.
number. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. For non-de minimis extraction reporting, this is an effort that Rick Vasilopoulos is doing a good job heading up. We've completed our outreach for this. We had advertised and held a couple one-on-one presentations with well owners. Fewer than we would have. We've completed the outreach. We didn't get takers for these one-on-one presentations from all the non-de minimis well owners. We've updated the website. The outreach led us to finalize all our draft program forms. So credit to LA County. They're the first group that provided their well registration and metering data. So thank you, Director Hernandez. We've got, well, the remaining non-de minimis well owners, so these are the well owners that pump more than 2 acre-feet a year, have till June to meet the deadline. Rick confirmed with me this morning that he sent a large batch of emails to the well owners with read receipts indicating that the emails have been opened. So we'll continue to track this. June is the deadline. And we'll advise your board how that's going at our next meeting. Too early to say if we're going to have compliance issues or not, but we might. We'll see where that goes. But we need to let the time frame run. So that's good news, and these are the kinds of things we can take credit for in the periodic evaluation. For the Department of Water Resources Interconnected Surface Water Guideline, there's been no change from this since last time we talked to your board. The Department of Water Resources hasn't provided its updated guidelines. So we'll do the best we can with considering their guidelines when they come out, but we can't make promises that we'll be able to fully consider everything just because the clock is ticking on the periodic evaluation. But we'll do the best we can to consider their guidelines. And frankly, we're not the only GSA in this issue, right? All the GSAs throughout the state also don't have the guidelines. So we'll manage this as best we can. On the subsidence best management practices, the Department of Water Resources did release its final. And there were some clarifications in it But I think some of the key points here on these bullets, they're recommending that the measurable objective for basins like our basin, without any evidence of land subsidence, should have a measurable objective of 0 subsidence. And then the second bullet, the minimum threshold should be set to disallow the onset of subsidence. Interesting language here. This could be set at 0 or the measurement error of the monitoring equipment. We're looking at the measurement error of the monitoring equipment now, in particular the INSAR data, to see how that compares to what we have in our GSP. Our GSP identifies 0.1 foot of subsidence per year is the minimum threshold, with 0.5 feet or cumulatively 0.5 feet. So it's possible we'll need to revise that a little bit to match what INSAR does, but we'll see. We're still evaluating this, and you know, this will run its course. But for us, without evidence of subsidence, we're going to push back on this to the maximum extent we can. In terms of a 6-month look ahead, of course, the advancement of the periodic evaluation is going to continue. The round 2 grant will be wrapped up. We anticipate sampling the monitoring wells that were recently installed in this next 6-month period. And Rick and the GSA will continue monitoring the non-de minimis reporting issue. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or Mark is still here to answer questions too if needed. Thank you.
Any public comments?
There is not.
Director, questions or comments? Director Martin.
Thank you, Chair Marks. Rick, thank you for your report, but I have some questions for Mark's report, if you don't mind. Did we have a construction manager on those wells?
Yes, we had KJ Consultants,
Okay.
Kennedy Jinx.
So do we have a geologist or a geotechnical engineer on site?
There was as well.
Okay.
Todd Groundwater, he was the main, they were the main consultant, but we also, it was a team from Todd, RCS, and GSI
Okay.
as well.
What were the depth of those wells?
They vary. The monitoring wells, I think the shallowest is like 260, which was the alluvial one that we drew, one of the nested ones. And then the deepest one being, I think, 1270.
Okay. That's what I had. Thanks, Mark.
Director Consent.
A question. You said you're gonna discuss how to handle the subsidence threshold in the periodic evaluation, but one of your subsidence maps, right, it showed the landfill. We know that landfill's compact, so that's probably what that is. What about grading? Like, how do you distinguish between grading where they either are adding or taking away soil, or things that are sinking for other reasons, like a landfill? How's that? You know, how do we not get that into our scope of work if it's really some other thing causing the change in elevation?
Right. Yeah. We simply look at aerial photos, Google Earth, and compare that to what those heat maps show. And it's those kinds of things can be explained away pretty easily.
And so we do, right? I just want to make sure that we are explaining it away and not saying, oh, gee, there's this, you know, that half the town thinks the landfill is sinking because the water underneath is going away or some weird reason. I want to make it clear that if it's some other cause,
Like grading
or compaction of solid waste, that it is not a GSA problem, and that we explain it away and don't have responsibility and people asking us, oh no, you did have subsidence, I saw the map. That would be a concern that people look at maps without reading an explanation.
Good
So
point.
make sure the explanations are there, and DWR is fine with explanations, right?
Yeah,
If we tell
I-
them
I
we're
think
not worried
so.
about it because XYZ, they will also not worry about it, right? I hope.
I think that's true.
Okay.
You know, some of these, but it has to be explained, like you
Yeah.
said. It can't be left out as a mystery, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're on solid ground with that,
Okay.
but I appreciate the point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions or comments? Okay, I have one, dealing with the subsidence. In my recollection from reading one of the background papers that GWR put out is that there's elastic and inelastic subsidence,
Mhm.
that the groundwater level may periodically, or the ground surface elevations may periodically decline as your basin drains because of lack of uh, precipitation,
Right.
and then rebound. Does DWR's recommendation of a zero subsidence level, does that recognized in that, or is it just set it at 0 and that's what you gotta live with? Sorry.
They are, and I'm looking at Sir Fraz, but my understanding is DWR is focused on the inelastic subsidence, the subsidence that would be permanent, not annual changes. Right?
I can just say 2 seconds.
Mhm.
I know. So
Gone viral.
the measurable objective is basically zero subsidence, and that's known. The minimum threshold, what they ask us is like there shouldn't be an onset of subsidence. And one of the ways we can do is like see like if there's a cumulative change, like 5 year or longer period. If we see that there's a negative cumulative change over the long period, that kind of indicates like there's an onset. There's 1 or 2 year kind of, it's hard to determine if it's inelastic or elastic. So for example, we see swelling blue colors, those are elastic for sure. So we need to see cumulative, which we are doing 5 years.
Yeah, that's, well, our basin also may be a little unique in that there may be, an upwelling of the basin in general because of tectonic issues. And how do you put that into the mix?
Yes, that's a very good point. I don't think we have yet looked into if any of them are just tectonic movement or not. We should look at that too. Yeah, that's a good
Mhm.
comment. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hernandez.
Thank you. So I just kind of want to understand a little bit. I was really interested in this upcoming workshop and kind of the information that you're going to glean about, kind of floating the idea of criterias and asking for some response about criteria and those kinds of things. And the fact that that's really what we're looking, right, in this report, this 5-year report, we're really focusing on a potential change, right, to our criteria.
Yes.
So we're going to meet in June. I know your fourth workshop's in May, early
Mhm.
May, and then we're going to meet very early June, I think June 1st. But we're not going to actually get a presentation about what's in the periodic evaluation until August. Do you think what do you think you'll be sharing in June about this criteria? I'm very curious about, I think we're concerned about what are we going to get to sell in this. I mean, we're going to put whatever we want in the periodic evaluation, but we'd like to see a change ultimately with that evaluation when we submit it to the state. So what will you be able to share, do you think, in June with us? Do you think you'll have those criteria targets?
I think so. I
Okay.
think what what would make sense to share with your board in June. And you know, maybe the targets are still a little squishy, but
Yeah,
um, I'd like to see a table showing the targets in the original GSP
mm-hmm,
and how we think they're going to change or how we propose that they will change.
mm-hmm,
We can do that
mm-hmm,
in June.
mm-hmm.
And I think that'll make it more clear on what's happening. The other thing we can talk about in June, though the May workshop is largely focused on the water level criteria.
Mm-hmm.
In June, I think we will have an update for you on the water quality changes as
Ah,
well,
okay.
which was another focus of the second workshop. So
Mhm.
I think a comparison approved GSP to where we're heading
we're
with the
headed.
periodic evaluation is what we'll present.
And you're right. The fourth step is mostly, water levels, right? That we're talking about. And that was kind of what I was referring to initially more than the water quality. And, it's, I don't know if significant's the right word. It's different and it's lower.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering, how will we be discussing later in the year how we share that with the state and how we begin conversations? Ahead of the report, or is this something that we submit the report and then we start
We,
conversations?
Ali and I were talking about this last week,
Okay.
trying to get an audience with DWR
Mhm.
relatively soon to tell them where we're heading with this. So yeah, we would like to do that
Ahead.
ahead
Okay.
of submitting the draft. But um, I think the other key thing with this, to build on something Director Gutsite said, we really need to do a good job explaining
Yep.
to DWR why these changes are being made.
Mhm.
They're being made to make things more correct. Yes, some of the water levels will go down,
Yeah.
but it is a refinement, and refinement of these GSPs is part of the spirit
Mhm.
of these GSPs, and so we will, that's our position.
Okay.
And without going down memory lane, these GSPs, the first GSP that we did, it was a huge effort. And it hasn't been until we've actually been working it
Mm.
and doing the math and looking at the undesirable results that we found some of these things that are just not, they just need to be corrected.
Okay.
And that's okay. It's all right. We'll make it clear why that's the case and we'll move forward.
Okay. Yeah, and I hear what you're saying. We're making the links of sustainability, whether
Right.
it's higher or lower. We're providing the proof that it's sustainable and it's appropriate.
Right.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No other questions or comments, then we'll move on to item 4, Executive Director's. So,
Thanks, Vice President Marks. Good afternoon, everyone. And I have one item for report today. It's in the previous meeting, I talked a little bit about the Arundo removal effort. That's SCV Water is leading in the valley here, and I'm very happy to report back today to the GSA board that we completed the first phase of the removal by March 15th. That was a big effort because we had to change the permit to allow us to work through the nesting season for the birds in the area. CDFW was very supportive and worked with them. They extended for us the time until March 15th. The nesting season here in the valley starts in February 1st. So they gave us a month and a half to complete at least the mechanical removal, and that was supported by our biologists were every day in the sites to check for nest and try to avoid disturbance of any of the birds that existed in that area. So it was a big effort from our contractors, from our staff, and from our project managers also to continue working through the period that we were granted. The At the end of the period that we granted for finishing the work, we were able to remove about 14 acres of vegetation. That's the aerial extent of the existence of the arondo. Not all of it is arondo. We were removing only arondo tamarisk and leaving the native species in the area. So, but it was 2 areas of 7 acres, and the other area is about 10-15 acres, but we were not able to finish all of it because it was very dispersed. So we have to work into selectively looking into where the areas where we have the arondo. We removed about 320 cubic yards of arondo of biomass. If you think about it, it's a football field filled up to 3 feet height of biomass that we removed it over these over a month and a half of 2 months and a half of time that our contractor was working there. And remember, during this time also our contractor has to deal with a lot of flow in the river, because this in January we had a lot of rain. And so I just wanted to thank all the team members who have been working on this. And this is an effort from our engineering, our water resources, as well as the contractor that we hired to do the work. I would like also to thank Director Hernandez to help us with the permits for the county flood control. That what came actually because of your help came very quickly. That allowed us to go into the river quickly and do the work, and really appreciate that. And also I would like to thank the city, and the city is not here today, but we want to thank them. After we finished the work, there was a lot of trash. There was a lot of trash in the area that was captured by the arondo, because arondo was filling between the big trees and catching a lot of the trash. So the city brought their employees. More than 20 people came and did a cleaning event on March 12th. They cleaned all the sites that we have removed the arondo from. And so I really appreciate that. And they said that they wanted to come back again to do site 2 that we didn't do it the first time. This concludes my report today. Thank you.
Great. Any public comment?
There is not.
Director comment to question. Okay. I've directed requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests? Okay. Then we are at item 6, adjournment. The next regular board meeting is scheduled for June 1st. See you then.
Very good presentations, good information.